everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today on this day, I have the pleasure of speaking with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Tierney Bates. He is the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs down at University of South Carolina, Upstate, and we're going to be hearing shortly about more the work that he is doing down there. But as I always do, sir, I take a quick moment to pause, say thank you to you for making time for me today. Time is a gift. Once we give it, we cannot get it back. So I truly appreciate you setting aside this time in your day to sit down and chat with me. And with that, sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And I want to give a quick shout out to our mutual sister, Patty over at Ultimate Connections, for connecting us today and making sure everything was coordinated. So I got to give a shout out to her. But let me get going with you because I got a short period of time to pack a whole bunch of stuff in. So as I mentioned, you were doing work in higher education, and for many years, the landscape of higher education has been changing and evolving, much different than when I went decades ago. But in my conversations with young folks, I hear a lot of them saying things like, they don't understand the value of college education now, especially because the price tag on it is exorbitant these days. So if you were to speak to some young folks and some parents and try to impart in them the value of college and how it is still a viable path in today's times, what kind of things would you say to them about pursuing college education?
Sure. I would tell people pursuing a college education is really important nowadays for multiple different reasons. If you talk about it from the lens from an economic base, I know people are looking at it saying it costs a lot, but actually what I would tell people to do is shop. We, just like higher education, you go out to shop for eggs and better gas prices, all that other great stuff. Shop for the institution that fits your needs, but also fits where you see yourself long-term and what you want to do. Shop at institution to make sure that the people care about you, meaning that you're going to a community that reflects you, feels like you belong there, and that you'll be focused and taken care of while you're there as well. I would say also to parents and a lot of folks, a lot of times people think of the cost, but don't realize they miss out on the opportunities based upon performance. So a lot of institutions still give out a lot of aid and scholarship money. Sometimes it doesn't go claim in that regard because students aren't aware. And so do your due diligence if you have an interest in a university or a certain university where there is a lot of opportunity. If you do your work in K through 12 and in high school and get the good grades, the ACT, the SAT scores, you should be paying for college then. Because just like anyone, you should be shopping, you should be understanding the dynamics. You can meet with the universities, you can meet with people who teach you how to get into a university and go for free. And so I think the misconception, particularly for first gen parents and our students that come, is that it's going to cost a lot of money, but they have to understand it's an investment. It's an investment in yourself long-term. It's an investment in your outcomes that you want to have. And like anything in life, when you invest in something, you're hoping for a return. And so in that regard, if you don't invest in yourself, what are your other options when you're thinking about if I'm not going to college? And another thing I think about is the network. Now, I know a lot of people have said this when I've said this before, well, I'm paying for friends. Well, guess what? You pay for business partners, you pay for multiple different other things in your life in that regard. So if I'm paying for friends that can lead me to an economic base that can help me and change my family tree long-term, I might spend that $5 because you're investing in everything. It's no different if you drink coffee every day and you go to Starbucks and spend $5. Well, you're investing in Starbucks. You're not investing in yourself.
That's right.
And so it's important for us to understand those different dynamics. But I think nowadays, more students need to know what they have a true interest in or come to college to explore what those interests are. And parents need to let students do that because sometimes they're like, I'm not paying for you to go to school and do X, Y, and Z. No, actually let them explore because those who come to college at 18, by the time they leave at 22 or 23 years old, they're a total different individual.
Yes.
And so the ability to critically think, build your network, navigate what I would call conflict management, navigate time management, navigate a lot of skills that young people need happens in college. And here's the kicker in the head. Employers are still expecting you to have some kind of credential or degree when they go to hire. So it's not like you can just apply to any type of job and don't have any kind of credential or any type of degree overall that will help you get in the door. There is still that demand where people say, well, we require a bachelor's degree, right? For a lot of different jobs. So we know by having a degree, your potentials for earnings, no matter what major you may be, are higher over a lifetime as well. And so again, I always say, reiterate, find the best institution for you based upon what you want to learn, what you want to do, and what makes you feel like you belong. And then again, you don't have to pay if you're smart and using all the resources around you.
So what you're saying, and it's kind of new to me, it is a myth that you're going to come out of college burdened with college loans. That is.
Well, I think a couple different things when you look at college loans. You know, the average college loan nowadays, I think, is in the $30-some thousand range, close to 40, I would say. But a lot of that is put on the backs, like I said, students of color and first generation students because they're not aware. Not only that, more students take out loans than they need. Number one thing I see most people do is that if the government says, I'm gonna give you $10,000, you take all $10,000. You don't need all $10,000. You might only need $3,000, but since they're giving you 10, you're gonna take the 10. You might
get them new Jordans. I get them new Jordans.
There you go. I got to get the new iPhone, the new Jordans. I got to look fresh. My drip got to be right, as the student was saying. But you didn't need the full 10 grand because here's the thing: most 18, 19-year-olds do not know what to do with money.
Yes.
So the issue is not necessarily the cost; it is financial literacy.
Gotcha.
And so what we need to do to teach our students is true financial literacy. We're in the process of that right now. We're going to implement something for our new students that are coming in the fall. And they take some kind of financial literacy course or program because it's important for them to understand that.
True. Awesome. That's good.
And if they don't understand what to do with a $8,000-9,000 loan, or what we call overage, meaning that you applied all your financial aid, you might have some government grants, and say your tuition total is 10 grand and you got 13 on the books, and we cut you a check back for $3,000. Well, you should do something different versus just going to spend that money. Yes. You should put it in an account. You should put it in an account that maybe can earn you some interest to be able to pay it back. So the biggest thing is not that people go to school and just kind of get this money. The problem is financial literacy. And if you've never been taught through K through 12, even in your own house, people are living check to check, you'll just repeat the cycle. And so that's what you see. And you don't need the newest car. I mean, I got students riding around in 21s, 22s. I'm like, my car almost 10 years old.
You living better than me.
Living better than me. And I got a good job. So
can I borrow your meal card?
Exactly. And so, you know, I got students staying in $900,000, $1,200 a month apartments. I stayed in my first apartment. It was $365 a month, and it was a rat hole. But at the same time, it was my rat hole, and I knew I could afford $365.
Thank you.
So the problem is the instant gratification.
Yes.
With no true financial literacy.
And we're struggling with that as a society as well, you know. So and so the kids are taking it to college with them, and they're so burdened with, you know, other things that are stressing them out. Yes. Social media is constantly feeding to them. You have to have the latest and the greatest and the newest. So
social media is a gift and a curse for this generation. It can connect you, but it also can sell you a fantasy.
Yes.
If I see more people post, I'm living my best life, look at every meal I eat, I'm flying to Dubai, all this other great stuff, everybody ain't living that good.
Thank you.
Everybody ain't living that good.
College is about, not to cut you, college is about ramen noodles and
hot dogs in the ramen noodles. Hot dogs in the ramen noodles.
That's all you eat for 4 years. That's all
4 years. See, if you don't struggle, sometimes you don't appreciate the good things that do happen to you.
That part.
Right? So if you're giving everything, you can't appreciate certain things. And so a lot of our students, they do come from backgrounds that there is a struggle, but you got to appreciate the things that you are giving. And you have to have the cognizance and the wherewithal to think about, what does this impact on my future? And what we don't do for a lot, I don't care if you're college or not, for most 18 and 24-year-olds are thinking about, what does it look like to be 30, 35 or 40? Because right now they're just looking here, right in front of them. They're not looking out towards the past 5, 10, 15 years down the road or the future ahead of them. They're just looking at the right now, right here. I'm trying to have fun. I want to live my best life, as they like to say, all the other great stuff. But with your best life, eventually comes some age and wisdom.
Yes.
And most people at 35 or 40 would tell you, I wish I did X, Y, and Z when I was 18 and 19 because they've gained age and wisdom.
Yes. Poor babies. They're going to get it. They're going to get it. Well, let me build on that a little bit. You talked about the financial literacy, and I think that's awesome and amazing because I'm reflecting back on my own experience. If I had just that element out, so far ahead of the game. But when a young person enters into college in that environment and atmosphere, what are some key elements in your experience that they need to do, like right out the gate, to kind of increase their chances of success?
I think first and foremost is time management, number one.
Okay.
When you get to college, you're free. Nobody's waking you up in the morning. Nobody's forcing you to go to class. You're not going to have no truancy clause, or mom and dad is not going to get in trouble if you don't show up to school and they're calling you saying, little Johnny missed class today. Mm-hmm. You're paying for what you want, right? Okay. So that means you need to be disciplined enough to say, I'm going to invest the time into what I want to do. So if you fail a class, if you don't do well in a class, that's because you haven't focused on the time, or what I would say, number two, went and got help. Okay. Every university has resources, whether that's tutorial, supplemental instruction, emergency funds, pantry. We have all types of resources, internal and external, to help students around success. All you have to do is ask the right questions. And what most students are, what my dad used to say, closed mouths don't get fed. Amen. They're having closed mouths versus asking individuals for the help. We as institutions try to promote, plan, engage students multiple different ways to realize the resources are all around you. We have emergency funds. I use that example. We have paid students rent. Students who are going out and get these overage checks, get the $8,000 overage check, and broke 2 months later, living in a $1,200 a month apartment, and they'll say, I need help. I can't pay my rent next month or I'll be evicted. Well, we have that in place. But the real issue is we tell them, great, we can pay your rent this month, but what happens the following month? I can see where we had a situation when one student lost their job. They were working full-time, going to school full-time. She lost her job and she said, I just need some help to get some groceries and my rent paid this month until I can get it. That's different. We know we can help that student because they're actually coming, asking, and we can put eyes on them and we can help them. But if you know you're getting overage money, if you know that you're doing X, Y, and Z, and you're blowing money and you're living above, like I say, your means, that's one thing that we can help you. But what's the long-term goal to help you as well that we need to work with you on moving forward? And so when we think about that, that is the biggest thing that a lot of students need more support in earning. Because again, as a dad myself, we spoil our kids. We give them everything they want, and then they don't know how to ask for help or do some, what I like to say, stupid things to get the things they need versus just asking for the help. And so we got to break kids out of that and let them know that you can ask for help. Third thing, you got to build your network. I remember being in college myself, that by knowing the lunch lady, by knowing my hall director, by knowing that one faculty member that I had to build a relationship with, they were to help me navigate next steps in my journey. They were there to help and pour into me. So most faculty, most staff on a college campus are there to help you if you open up your mouth and have a conversation. No one wants to see you not succeed, because we know that you're paying, you're coming to school, you're trying to get an experience and a degree. We want to see you successful. You just have to kind of step up and meet us halfway, because we don't know what's going on in your life until you share. And I get it. It's a stigma sometimes, especially in communities of color, that you need to get the mental health support, that you need to get the financial support, that you need to get certain support, just period. And so that is up to you to make sure that you can build out that network. Those letters you're going to need for references, jobs, all that stuff comes by building your network internal to a university. I've written many letters of recommendations. I've actually picked up the phone and asked people to give students jobs, and they have. That's all about a network that you want to use to your advantage overall. And then last but not least, involvement. I would say involve. I don't care if you just get involved with one organization, but data shows by you being involved in at least one organization that you're committed to something, meaning that you're committed to doing well inside and outside of the classroom, and that you will matriculate and persist on towards graduation. Not only that, it helps you around your conflict management, leading teams, engaging with people, being flexible, all these things that employers want to see.
Awesome. And, just to add to that, the whole college experience, sometimes it can feel like a lonely experience. So to be involved with some kind of community kind of relieve some of that stress, because it's very daunting at least from what I remember, so to have that sense of connection. Now you bring up all these services that I'm assuming your office, Student Affairs, offers. So at what point in a college student's journey should they start camping out at your office, knocking on your door, say, hey, Dr. Bates, can I talk to you for a minute? I mean, when should we start?
I tell everybody, freshman year, first week. By me knowing who you are, the better I can help you.
Okay.
It's easier to say, hey, Lana, I know you. You stop by my office once a week. I've seen you in the cafeteria. You're involved in this student organization. We watch you just like you watch us.
Okay.
And so as we watch people on campus, we watch the students who are very active, vocal, engaged. I can't tell you how many freshmen this year that I've watched. And I went and tapped them on the shoulder and said, I want you to be my future leader. I want you to be in SGA. I want you to be in this student organization. I want you to come work for me. Because I try to hire at least 5 to 10 students every year to come work just for me and give them certain tasks and project management to do. Okay. By doing that, you're building your resume, you're building your experience, and you're building your network. And so I think a lot of students wait till they're either end of their junior year or senior year to realize, oh, woke up, I got to get to know some people because I'm about to graduate and I need X, Y, and Z. No, it starts your first year on campus because I can help you freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, and senior year. I can be the person when you have a conduct issue or when you have an issue with a faculty member to kind of step in. And so my area, Student Affairs, has health services, disability services, campus recreation, counseling services, residence life and housing, dean of students, conduct, care management, student involvement, Greek life, intercultural engagement. So everything outside of the classroom, as I like to say, that doesn't deal with academics, we're overseeing from a student affairs lens. And it's the ability for us to work with our partners in academics and athletics to be able to create a wraparound service and a culture of care for students where they can be successful overall. So I would tell any student, start orientation, start at your first week here, your first couple of classes, start going to know who the people are. It's like, everybody wants to meet the CEO. Well, I'm the CEO of my area. So you want to meet me and you want to meet the chancellor, you want to meet the CEO over enrollment. You want to meet people who can help and how she'll have some influence.
Awesome. Okay. Now, one of the things that your office does, it specializes in, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And me being Black and being a woman, it seems like a no-brainer to me, right? But I've been reading across the United States at various campuses, there are some that are talking about and already have removed diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I was wondering if you could explain to me why the backlash, and then what are the consequences of the fallout from removing diversity, equity, and inclusion from campuses?
Sure. So what we're seeing right now is what I would call neo-Confederism taking place. I say that is because we want to go back to a space where lies are being told. And so we really understand you have your private schools and you have your public schools. Okay. Most of the drama where people are rolling back certain things are public institutions. Why that is a couple of different reasons. One, state funding and state legislators. I'm working at the University of South Carolina Upstate. We're funded a lot and supported through the state legislature. Same thing when I worked at UNC Chapel Hill. So you have a lot of people who don't look like me who are making these decisions in that regard, but have never got to know me or people who look like me in that regard to understand the dynamics of what the microaggressions, the undercover issues, critical race theory that is being attacked, which is a law. Most people can't even define critical race theory or wokeism, as they like to say in that regard. So that's very interesting to me.
Yeah.
And so when you see people pulling back on DEI stuff, that speaks to a couple of different things. For me personally, it speaks to that you're not willing to stand on principle. It speaks to the ability that you're telling your students to look like me and look like others from communities of color, that you don't matter. You're telling me also that you're not willing to fight the good civil rights, yet you want to talk about Dr. King come every January.
Show that nice picture of, him walking hand in hand, right?
Right.
Not the picture after where we were getting sprayed with the water, right?
Right. And in 2023, everybody wants to quote the good Dr. King, but as I tell people, 80% of America still hated Dr. King when he died.
That part.
So here we have this gentleman that we praise now, but he would not stand for what's going on today in today's society as a whole. And I don't care what people say, the browning of America has been happening for years. If you look at around the world, 70% of the world are people of color.
Okay.
The problem is that people feel like somebody's getting more than the next group, and that's not true. If you look at facts, figures, and data, particularly for Black communities, which, as Dr. King quoted and said back in 1967, we're the only ethnic group in this country that's ever been enslaved on these lands. We're the only ethnic group that has a stigma based upon skin tone. And we're the only ethnic group that has literally been ostracized from economic development for the simple fact when people were moving west of the Mississippi, they were giving land away when they were creating new states and everything like that. Yet we had no opportunity to do that coming out of slavery. And even out of slavery, we had no opportunity to really do that because of Jim Crow and other different things because of the stigma of our skin. Yet we built communities like Tulsa, Wilmington, North Carolina, Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm from. And these communities were thriving until people felt, i.e. what we see in 2023, jealousy. And the ability to say, we want to take this away because you can't have more than me. You can't have equal to me. Yet, that's what the Constitution says. And the reason why, if you look at the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, it's so important to understand the dynamics of the country that we live in, because our own laws up until 1964 Civil Rights Act, 1965 Voting Rights Act, still treated us as second-class citizens in this country. So it's all factual. Redlining, factual. Banking, factual. I couldn't live, play, work, or get loans. All facts that we expect people to pull up their bootstraps, yet we have no strings or no boots.
That part.
And you can't pull up strings and boots for a community in less than 60 years out of civil rights.
It ain't been that long. People act like, oh, that was so long ago.
My mother grew up in the civil rights movement. So again, as I tell people all the time, I'm just one generation from it. And so it's important to understand that. And as we move forward and schools are backing down from certain things and changing things, it's basically around, do we get up and vote? And do we address why these individuals, you can't tell me that it doesn't sound racist, in my own personal opinion, when you want to roll back stuff that has been successful for teaching and learning in most universities and colleges, just because it doesn't satisfy your narrative, yet it is a true narrative of this country.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Let me just stir up the hornet's nest here, because I do see the paddle there, the Phi Beta Sigma paddle there. There's a gentleman down in Florida, a governor down in Florida, that seems to be attacking the Divine Nine and wants to not even allow us to participate in brotherly, sisterly life down there. Where we at? Where we at, Dr. Bates? What we got going on?
You're talking about HB Bill 99 or whatever it is.
Yes,
HB 99.
I don't even want to name the man, but you know,
we'll just talk about the bill.
Okay.
If you look at the bill, it's very vague. It's only 24 pages. But what it's saying is around teaching. So what it's trying to attack is either academic curriculum is really what it's trying to attack overall, or where money's going to support DEI. So when we talk about Divine Nine, it is our duty as Divine Nine organizations to step up and galvanize around this, right? March on the Florida Capitol, galvanize communities, all their other stuff. Now, it's not saying it's getting rid of Divine Nine organizations. I wish people would stop saying that, because as a Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, most Divine Nine organizations at predominantly white institutions are registered student organizations. So as a registered student organization, I can't turn you down as a registered student organization at a public institution for the simple fact I get state money and I get federal dollars. So that would be called discrimination. And so when we have this conversation as it's flying around all across the world, you know, they're trying to get rid of D9, that's not true. D9, we think of ourselves as diversity, equity, inclusion organizations. And so since we look at ourselves as DEI organizations, and in the language it's talking about curriculum, DEI organizations, all this other great stuff, we've put our mindset in that. Oh, they're trying to get rid of it. But technically, working at a predominantly white institution like I am, you're a registered student organization. And if I were to deny you either money, or forming as an organization on campus, then I can be looked at as discrimination and be in a legal battle.
Okay.
And so that's where we have to read in between the lines and do a deeper dive into it overall. That's like any other organization wants to fund here. Our policy and procedures, that's why people need to go and look at their institution. It says if you have 5 members in a constitution and you fall in line with X, Y, and Z, you can form a student organization. That's all our D9s are on our campuses.
Gotcha.
So if you're talking about defunding or getting rid of us, you would have to get rid of all Greek organizations.
Ain't gonna do that.
Exactly. So when we really get into the needle of the haystack of it all, we have to be more focused on how the overarching bill is vague and need to address that and how it affects student organizations outside of when they want to go promote something. So example, if Phi Beta Sigma want to go promote something around DEI, that might be hitful if the money is used from the perspective of what the bill is saying to use to support and push DEI initiatives. I.e., but if Phi Beta Sigma Iota Beta chapter decided, hey, we're going to support this, but it's coming out of our money, our coffers as a whole, as a registered student organization, we can do that. And so again, it's one of those things that we really have to do a deeper dive in. Gotcha. And that's why I say social media is a gift and a curse. Because this took off in social media so fast without people paying attention to reading the bill. And everybody sending me the bill like, yeah, it says it right here. I said, I didn't see no Sigma, no Delta, no nothing in the bill. Nothing. I didn't see nothing. As national organizations, you know what I'm saying? They've all kind of came up with their own statements, but it never said this specific organization. Okay. It is very vague of what we fund, the curriculum, anything that teaches X, Y, and Z. But again, these are registered student organizations on campus. Gotcha. And so we would do a disservice if we were to ban them, because then we'll be in a litigation. So you got to pay attention to what they're trying to say and do. And at the same time, we're focused on our organizations when we need to be focused on the overarching bill as a whole.
Gotcha. I think anytime anybody hears anything coming out of that state from that man in particular, they just want to, anyway. So like you said, you got to you read between the lines and read everything. Yes, there are some things we do need to address, but maybe that's not what we do need to address. So, read between the lines. So we got you. Okay. Now let me build on that because I'm running out of time here. I want to talk about, as I was getting prepared for today's show, I was roaming around the internet, kind of reading some things, and I stumbled across this article in Newsweek, 2022 article, and it said that college enrollment for Black men has dropped 14.3% spring of 2021 compared to spring of 2020. And then the number of Black male students at two-year colleges declined 21.5% in spring of 2021. And most of us know or understand that two-year colleges is usually a doorway to higher education for everybody. So within the Black community, we have always struggled to get more of you guys in higher education already out the gate. It's always been an issue for us. But to hear that now we're struggling more so is very concerning to me. So two-part question, I think, long range, what are the complications of having a smaller pool of degreed Black men in our community? And then two, how do we get more brothers on board? Get you there.
No. I know where you're going. I think first and foremost, I want to say this. Dr. Tolson told us a couple of years ago, there's actually more Black men in college than in jail. Okay. The problem is we don't graduate. So to your point, in reading those facts and figures, the pandemic really took out a lot of brothers, right? So I'm in college. One, I'm usually first gen. I can't afford it at the first time. And society tells me I need to go to work. Mm-hmm. Because if I got a family to provide for, or if I don't have the infrastructure in my mind of what I want to do, that's different, right? So again, the average 18-year-old Black man has also been pushed to athletics. So once the dreams are busted around football, basketball, whatever sport they're in that regard, and if you're not getting the scholarship, I know this because this is what's happening to my nephews. They're playing basketball thinking they're going to go play Division I, and their little bubbles got busted. Because I said, if you wasn't recruited as a sophomore, you wasn't getting recruited as a senior, unless you had a breakout year. And again, they go to college and they're not focused on what the end goal should be. So we have to put in parameters. So here we have brotherhood conversations. Other campuses, they've had Student African American Brotherhood, Black Male Initiatives. I've been over 3 Black Male Initiatives at our campus.
Okay.
We don't go back to our schools. So when I look at our great D9 fraternities and all other stuff, we need to be back into the schools, K through 12, of showing role models.
Okay.
Because the role model has been the rapper and the athlete.
Mm.
It is not Dr. Bates. Even though I go to the schools, it is not, what I'm saying, Dr. Toes. It is not us. We are looked at as the nerds. You know what I'm saying? But the cool kids are the rappers and the athletes, right? Or the business entrepreneur, because you'll see people say, I didn't have to go to college and I made $1 million. So for the average 18 and 19-year-old, especially Generation Z, that has grown up on social media and see people become millionaires overnight based upon a fashion, a trend, or a TikTok, that's where focus has been. So as brothers have dropped out of our role, I'll give you an example. We're 32% male here at my institution. It's 68% female. And we just got our data today that says there's more female applications than males. We've seen an increase in males, but I think they said 14%. But that's good. But that means applications versus actually attending.
Gotcha. Okay.
2 different things.
Gotcha.
So we have to ask that question. And the second thing I think it's detrimental because from a nuclear family perspective, when we have 70% of households that look like me and you that are single parents, it erodes the family structure.
Gotcha.
And right now we need to get back to the roots of a family structure.
Yes.
And when you have a family structure where you have a family in everybody in the house, it would dictate outcomes. It'll be better outcomes for our community as a whole around health, wealth, and all the other elves, as I like to say, to be able to impact us moving forward. So all we are doing is repeating a cycle when our men are not being held accountable. Held accountable is the simple fact of not only if you don't go to school, go into a trades, going to get a certificate in cybersecurity, something where you can have a livable wage and ability to have an impact on your community and not create a cycle of more single family homes.
Gotcha. Good point. Good point.
Because when we talk about generational wealth is not built off of single family homes.
No, and I think, it's concerning, and this is kind of off topic. I see so many young people, talking about, the single life is for me and everything, but you don't get ahead. You don't create generational wealth coming from just one income. It's really, especially in today's time, it's going to take 2 incomes to kind of get ahead, buy some extra real estate to bring in rent. I mean, whatever it is. But anyways, that's me. That's my soapbox. Anyways, let me get back on track, Dr. Bates here. Let's talk about the brothers or any college student. We've got them in college. We've got them camped out at your office, kind of, Dr. Bates, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? The end goal of college is to graduate. And you've said that the end goal is to graduate. And not only graduate, but land the job that is in your field. And so many times I have seen over the years that doesn't happen. So what does the college student have to do while in college to make sure that they don't end up with just a piece of paper on the wall while they're flipping burgers at Burger King? Okay, so what do they have to do?
Well, I ain't gonna lie, Burger King paying $16, $17 an hour. Not that.
Well, back
in the day when I was making $4.25. But all jokes aside, we need to look at our curriculum in higher education and start teaching life design. If you've never heard of life design, it is a theory and was developed out of Stanford University. It is really taking a student to invest in themselves. Particularly, we start teaching it freshman and sophomore year of what they really want. Again, average 18-year-old will come in and major in something. And if they don't have enough resilience, when they get that bad grade, I'll give you an example. Nursing is one of our biggest programs. They don't get into nursing, they sad. I'm going to transfer, pause. You can go into community health. You can go into public health. You can go into all these other, what I call health science adjacent roles, because I'm married to one, and make just as good money as a nurse.
Okay.
Yet most folks, if they don't get the prize, they're looking like, oh, I'm leaving, this is not worth it, all this other great stuff. But when you teach life design, it teaches you the prototype. Because I've had the opposite, where students, I'm going to dental school, I'm going to medical school, and then get to dental and medical school, and 2 weeks later calling me like, I'm dropping out, this ain't for me. I was studying for 4 years, got great grades, and I'm in dental school. Because they didn't realize they're chasing a fantasy. Most people are, I'm not saying your career is a fantasy, but most students don't ideate or prototype is the language I use, meaning go sit with a doctor for a couple of weeks and find out what a doctor really does.
Mhm.
Go sit with a nurse if you want to be an ER nurse or traveling nurse and find out what they really do and see the work. I tell people all the time, I thought I wanted to be a dentist. I actually went and saw a dentist, since my mom's friend was a dentist, and sat there and said, I do not want to look in people's mouths for the rest of my life. And that was my reality. My reality, I'm gonna be a dentist. It seemed cool, make a lot of money. Because my
Yeah.
dentist was a Black dentist, and he
Yeah.
had nice own business and nice car and all this other great stuff. And again, what you see, you want to be. I saw a Black man that was a dentist. So I was like, hey, I want to be like that. I know I wasn't gonna be no baller or a rapper or anything like that. But I realized also by sitting there and watching and everything, I'm like, yeah,
Hey,
I
no,
don't know if I really want to be in somebody's mouth all the time.
Let me get back in these books.
Let me get back in these books and think about something else. But that's what our students don't do at most college campuses. Why? Because, be very frank, 73% of all college graduates don't go into their major, but they come out with the critical thinking skills, the networking, the ability to be flexible, all the other tangibles that will help them navigate the types of careers they can. So our biggest problem is most students, particularly males, don't intern. Black males don't do internships. And so if they were to do multiple internships, you will find a niche or an area that finds purpose.
Okay.
You see, what most people are doing is they're chasing money. I want to make the most money I can in whatever profession I want to go to. But if you chase purpose, the money will come.
Okay. Okay.
And it won't be money that will come by fly by the night. It'll be money that will come to sustain you because you're walking in your purpose.
And consistent.
And for most people, they still need to find their purpose.
Yeah.
It might take you a couple of years, but when you find that purpose, based upon this education you have, you will flourish. And so we teach life design, which talks about ideation, prototyping, talks about what are you really good at. We have a lot of people who have certain skill sets and they're scared to go into those skill sets, even though they're great at it. Because we want them to do X, Y, and Z. I see it all the time with parents. Yeah, he do that artwork, whatever. I want him to do this. Art can make money. I don't see painting sold for $50,000, $75,000. Trust me, you can make some money in that endeavor. But what they don't do, and this is what I try to teach all students, everybody should minor in business. Business degree is the most universal degree. I tell people, if you don't tithe to the church or give to the church, just like a business, it's going to go out of business. So it's important to understand there's the theory of principle of business in everything we do.
Gotcha.
And so when you take a business course as a minor, no matter what you do, there's always accounting. Guess what? You got to do accounting for your own books. There's always marketing. You got to market yourself when you go on a job interview. There's always finances. There's always different HR. You got to have your Social Security to get a job. All these factors in our life, no matter what we do, we start our own business, are all business principles.
Gotcha.
So if you minor, say you're a sociology major, minor in business. You're an art history major, minor in business. Why? Because if you go out as a art history major and you start doing artwork, you got to study painting. You don't know what to price your stuff at. But somebody else does, because guess what they did? They went to business school, got a business degree, and understood the market to be able to sell your painting.
Gotcha. Good points. Okay. Well, you mentioned something real quick. I want to touch on. Speak to the parents for a minute. So we have this 18-year-old, and they're in college, and they come home and they say, "Mom and Dad, I'm now on my 5th major." How do you talk to the parents and don't have a heart attack? Let them go through this. I mean, what would just, because that's frustrating on the parent.
Especially if they're paying for it, they're really mad. So a couple of different things. I think, like I said, that life design, and it's a book. You don't have to take the class. I teach the class.
Okay.
I taught it at Chapel Hill. I'll be teaching it here this year.
Okay.
It's a book. It's called Designing Your Life. You can go get that book. It's 160 pages, big words, as I like to say. It has projects at the end of every chapter it wants you to do, because it comes with a workbook as well. I've had parents read that book and come back to me and say, I want to change my whole career. Because again, we are creatures of habit. And so what happens is when we get married, have kids, all our desires and everything we ever want to do just focuses on the work. I got bills to pay and I need to go to work. Versus really thinking about, again, walking in purpose. And that's what life design is helping you design the life that walks in purpose to get what you want out of life overall. And so I would tell most moms and dads, read that book, then have your child read it and go through the workbook as well. Because then on that edge, on that end, they'll have a better impact of wow. Because I've had parents read it and come back and say, wow, I wish I'd had this when I was in college.
Yeah.
And then I've had kids who've read it and took in my class and come back like, man, I wish they were seniors. Most times it's always seniors signing up in my classes. They're like, I just need that 1 credit, 3 credit hours to get up out of here. And then they come in like, man, Dr. Bates is the best class I ever took. I wish I'd have took this my sophomore year because it would have changed my trajectory of where I'm going.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what we have to do is read. Like I said, because a lot of our kids don't read. Think about it, they're on social media. They don't read. And parents have to put things in front of their kids to help them hone their skills. Like my daughter, example, loves fashion and loves like making things. I want to hone that. So this summer, I'm looking at a camp where she can go and do art. She can do fashion. She's into that. When I see her create a doll's dress as 5 years old, I'm thinking like, this, I might have a little baby future, genius on my hand. She created a stage. She literally got some boxes and created a stage for Barbies to stand up there and sing. And I'm sitting here like, she did this off of like just her head and maybe saw something and created a stage. And like, it was a nice stage. I'm like, oh man, you just put a little paint on that. And you wanted something.
Thank you.
But those are the things we need to invest in. What we see more or less, because I'm not doing it with my daughter, everybody wants to put their kids in sports. You know what I'm saying? And as much as I want her to play basketball, I keep telling my wife, I want her to play basketball. If she don't want to play basketball, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to go to games and root her on. But I'm going to be there rooting her on for that fashion and for that artwork as well. So all our kids, all of us have a gift. It is making sure that we hone that gift as parents and put the resources into the gifts that they have that can create opportunities for their future.
Awesome. I love it. I love it.
And that's particularly to our Black boys, because what we want to do, I'm from Ohio. If you grew up in Massillon, Ohio, they're gonna put a football in your crib.
Yeah, you're down there in the South, North Carolina. So that's all I grew up.
You're gonna put a football or basketball in the crib versus like putting a pen, a stethoscope, you know what I'm saying, something else overall. And so that's the society we live in. We root for the people. It's March Madness. We're gonna watch it all for the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But March Madness could be these kids right here in the STEM science program.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's where we put our priorities at. And a lot, I've seen it with my own nephews. My sister, AAU travel, spending all this other money. I said, has either one of them got a college offer or even some money to go play basketball?
Thank you. I mean, and I just wish, when I see all of these sports parents, I'm like, let's just run the numbers and the figures for a minute. Like the amount of kids that actually make it pro. What's the reality that, don't you think you need a backup plan? Because the odds of your kid making it pro are like this. So let's get a backup plan to the backup plan, because this might not pan out, so.
And even if they do make it, get a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Because the number one thing also we see for brothers is going to school, playing sports, but not getting degrees. When I worked at the University of Tennessee, I used to run into so many brothers that played ball and reminiscing about playing ball, but didn't finish with a degree. Mm-hmm. Or they got a degree in, I hate to say this because I know I work in education, but a degree that literally my daughter could get right now.
We flipping burgers because that's what the degree is worth, right? And anything could happen. This could go out, this could go out. There's no guarantees, so, get that degree while you're there, so anyways, Dr. Bates, I have ran out of my time here. I see now we could talk for a while. I want to ask, or I saw somewhere as I was sifting around, not only are you on campus, but you have your own consulting.
Yes.
What all services do you provide to people there?
Sure. So it's the Bates Consulting Group. It's myself, and I have some what I would call contractual employees that work with me. We focus on a couple of different things. We do career coaching. We do diversity, equity, inclusion workshops and trainings, campus climate surveys. We also are a Black talent search company, meaning if you have a position that you want to search at the mid-level and higher, we can be that search firm for you, finding that talent. Particularly right now, when a lot of major corporations, higher education institutions want to find more diverse pool of candidates. So we have that ability to headhunt and find new candidates as far as that's concerned. We also have a track where we can help bring in somebody around mental health. We have somebody who can track and come and talk about government relations and government entities, and also fundraising. And so my goal is to be more of a boutique, one-stop shop, as I like to say, where you can get service, whether you're K through 12, higher education, corporate, or nonprofit. And we've worked with all of them. I've worked with cities, we've worked with higher education institutions, or we've worked with nonprofits as far as that's concerned. The beauty of it is I get to choose. And so as an organization, I don't have to work with everybody. My goal was not to create this business and do this full time. It was to create a supplemental opportunity for me when I get to retirement to go more full time with it in that regard, but build that portfolio up. And we've been able to deliver to all our clients as far as that's concerned. And that's why they welcome us back. That, we have some people that are on retainer with us and working with us as an organization based upon our expertise. And a lot of people know with me in the field of higher education. So a lot of times, a lot of our clients are higher ed institutions overall, and they need that consultancy. They need to do it. As I always tell people, you always bring in a third party to tell you what you know, but scared to say within your organization sometimes. And so we've been doing very well. As a matter of fact, I'll be on the road in April, May, and June, and then in the fall with some of our contracts and clients that we have moving forward as well. But I can be contacted easily through my email, tbates1914@gmail.com. I give out my cell phone number to everybody else as well, 330-701-1914. And then the Bates Group as a whole is always there. And you can follow us at tbates1914 on Instagram as well. But we've been very, very blessed. And I've been blessed to work with individuals that are my contractual employees as well to help support them and also grow their business and their influence around what their niche area is overall.
Awesome. Well, I got one more, as you were talking, I got one more question before I ask my random question. We're coming out of this, because you were talking about traveling. We're coming out of this COVID fog here. How has COVID permanently changed the landscape of college, or has it changed?
Well, what you're going to see is more online learning. Universities did not want to do it, but COVID forced us, right?
Okay.
When we had to shut down. So what you'll see is more online offerings based upon certain majors, needs, all the other great stuff, because we're going to have to be in that space. Why? Okay. It's because you see these pop-ups like Coursera, General Assembly, Google Analytics now, where they're offering certifications. And so we as an institution have to do the same thing. We have to offer online, but also offer certifications to go along with the degree. An example would be Microsoft Analytics or Google Analytics is that far. It'd be great if I'm a sociology major and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do, but I majored in sociology, if I had a Google Analytics certification. Why that is important? Because if that puts on your resume and you've been certified in it, employer more than likely, oh, you got a Google certification? Let's talk, right? You can come work for us because there's other things you can do within our organization. You got a bachelor's in sociology, but that means with this certification, you can do other things. Okay. I'll give you a prime example. I have a student who works for Various Insights, which is basically an organization that does a lot of research. Well, I met them because they were interviewing me about some research project they were doing. And I kind of flipped it like, do you guys hire students? They're like, oh yeah, we hire, most of our people are coming out. And they hire students that don't have particular majors, right? You don't have to be a certain major, but they train you and they give you ready and they pay you pretty good coming out of college on top of that. But you have the wherewithal to say, if I have something around data analytics, since they are more of a data analytics company, just by getting a PMP, project management, or data analytics certification, automatically they're walking in the door and they're going to walk in with a higher certification, even if they got a bachelor's in sociology or a bachelor's in anthropology, right? Or communications, like my degree. Mm-hmm. It still sets you up for long-term success because now you understand what the organization is focused on is data analytics. So if you can put together a project where you're working with a client who's focused on data to help make informed decisions, because data drives everything. This beautiful thing we call a cell phone right now, it's the only thing it does is collect data.
That's right.
And there's a reason why you start scrolling like, why is Belk sending me stuff? I just bought a suit from Belk. Why is Belk sending me stuff? All this other stuff. I just bought a suit from Belk, right? And so I bought some Kohan shoots 2 months ago, and every time I scroll through, Kohan is popping up. Data, and it is somebody sitting at Kohan, Belk, and then behind the cell phone, really following and tracking the data, saying Dr. Bates is going to buy this Kohan shoot and keep sending them to him, and they right. So it's important to understand how we use data because data drives all the marketing and advertising we see through social media. There's a reason why Google and Facebook and all these companies are worth multiple money because of the advertising. There's a reason why an influencer can go on Instagram and become an influencer, have 1 million followers, and Walmart's paying you $80,000 to push a project.
That's right. That's right.
So that's the thing right now that kind of is a gift and a curse as well, because students see that I can become an influencer because I've been asked to be a LinkedIn influencer and make 10, 15, 20 grand a month being an influencer. Yeah. So I've seen people quit their jobs. I just was following somebody yesterday. She's like, I quit my corporate job and I'm an influencer now. And she's got like 700,000 followers and she's doing fashion and all kind of stuff, and she's making money that way. And who really set all that off was the Kardashians. I hate to say it. But they set off that influencer, and there's people out here now training you to be an influencer. At Duke University, they're teaching a class on social media and influence. And one of the students like, oh, I had like 300 followers. Now she's got 30,000. And so again, if I'm a company and I want my product, because I know it's not going to sell like it sells in a store if I got an influencer behind it. That's why celebrities are making more money off of influencing products, you know what I'm saying, in that regard moving forward. So if I can have 1 million followers and I sit up here and say, hey, drink this great tea from Salsaritas, and everybody likes it, you know what I'm saying, and I get 100,000 likes, Salsaritas is cutting me a check.
They actually have classes on college now?
You're starting to see a trend that social media, it's its own animal. And I tell people the first true social media was what I call boards. The boards where people used to put flyers. Yeah. If you study social media, that was the first social media. Yeah. It's to a fact now that it can make so many people money, i.e. why some brothers might not go to school. I've got a brother on there that now I started following him because he started sharing what he did. He was 18 years old. He went and found some products that was in a warehouse, bought them for pennies on a dollar, and sold all of it for $450,000 from an e-commerce standpoint. He made $450,000 in 1 month selling all this product that he bought for pennies on a dollar. So he kept doing that. And he became a self-millionaire, but he's 20 years old now, not even 21, and keeps doing this. Now he wants to teach other people how to do it. So when you think about it, if you think about college, you think about all this other going on. The kicker of the head is he's got a lot of money now and fast. Will he have that same amount of money 10 years from now?
Yes.
And that's why I say financial literacy is so important, because we've seen it with athletes. $1 million contracts. And when ESPN put out broke, they were talking about all the athletes that had all that money and they broke now.
I watched that one.
So again, I don't have a lifestyle like that. I don't need all 15 cars when I can only drive one. Yeah. All I want is a nice house and a nice car. And that's it for me. And I want a bunch of trips.
That's right.
I don't need all the other stuff. You know what I'm saying? I ain't spending $5,000 in a restaurant on a steak. Nah, I'm good on that.
Thank you. We want the memories, experiences, and stuff
exactly.
like that. Yeah, that's well, I just learned so much. Well, let me ask my friend. I got sidetracked. I was about to ask you another question. Let me ask you this random question before we sit up here and it's 4 hours later. Let's see what we got. Let's see. And it can't be nothing Sigma, this question I'm about to ask. Nothing Sigma, okay?
Okay.
Name a song that you know by heart.
Yeah, well, I love music. Any genre?
Any genre.
I love R&B. So a song, one of my favorite groups is Jodeci. So anything by Jodeci, pretty much. I grew up with Anita Baker in the household.
Okay.
So anything by Anita Baker, Keith Sweat.
All right, the crybaby.
Yeah, the crybaby Keith Sweat. As I tell people, I was a 90s R&B guy. So anything from the 90s R&B pretty much are songs that if I hear it, I can start singing. New Edition. Even though I didn't grow up with New Edition, that New Edition era, you know, I grew up later when they were broken up and all the other great stuff. So anything by New Edition. So if It Isn't Love comes on, I'm out here doing the dance and all the other great stuff. So I'm like in the video.
I ain't mad at you.
I'm the seventh member.
That's right. That's right. All righty, sir. Well, you have given us the information of how we connect with you and everything. And what are you guys on spring break down there now? Or
we just came off of spring break. So we're back to the throes. We got 5 weeks left of the semester. We count down, trust me. Graduation is May 2nd. We're looking forward to it.
May 2nd. Has that moved up? Because I seem to remember walking across the stage in June or something.
We're a weird institution where we're in a system. And the old way of doing stuff in the system was they were moved up. We're going back now and moving it back to mid-May.
Okay.
The biggest issue you run into in May, obviously, is Mother's Day.
Okay.
So a lot of schools do graduation around Mother's Day. And so we're trying to avoid Mother's Day and move it back some as far as that. Another thing is we've graduated in the middle of the week, which we're now changing back to the weekends. That was a system thing because the president of the system wanted to be able to attend all graduations.
Oh.
And so we would graduate on Tuesday and Wednesday, and kids is going crazy, like, wow, it's a Tuesday, Wednesday. Mom and dad got to take up Tuesday, Wednesday off versus just, be there on
the weekend. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this is the last one we do. Following next year, it'll be on the Saturday. And we'll also start breaking it up. We used to do one big graduation, probably break it up into smaller. We average about 900 to 1,000 students graduating. So break it up into 2 different pots as well. So for everybody can attend, 45% of our students are students of color.
Oh,
so, you're going to bring auntie, grandma, everybody in the family.
Ray. We're going to throw some meat on the grill and all that stuff.
Exactly. It's going to be 25 people, you know what I'm saying? So at the graduation. So it ain't just, we used to say just immediate family, but now, it's the whole, it's like a family reunion for the graduation. So
Amen. Let me ask you this real quick, because I keep on looking at this Phi Beta Sigma. The undergraduate chapter there, is it large or no?
Actually, we got 2 members right now. And so those are the things I'm working on. Our undergraduate chapters are not that big, yet we have the student body to make them bigger.
Okay.
I just met with them and I'm challenging them to think, how can they have 20 plus members? I've never worked at a school where each chapter had less than 20 members, because I think the vibrancy of our Greek life will speak to leadership. It'll speak to student involvement. And as our Greeks lead, students follow.
Okay. So just putting on a line, you guys will have to collaborate with other nearby colleges and stuff like that?
So it's weird in Spartanburg. So we're upstate, and some of the chapters, or what I would call a catch-all, more of a citywide. They might be housed here. Charter might be with us, but they'll take kids from Wofford, Limestone, Newberry. Some of the smaller schools in the area don't really have Greek life, or don't have enough students of color to be able to form a chapter. Because I remember at one point in time, they told me Wofford had a Kappa Alpha Psi chapter, but again, they don't have enough brothers outside of the athletes. And when you deal with athletes, it's up to the coaches sometimes of how they dictate that.
Gotcha.
But I think we have enough. When I look at the data of numbers of males of color, women of color, we have enough where each chapter can have 20 plus members.
Gotcha. It's so important as part of the experience. And then just the service work, the being a servant and the overall, anyway, let me get off track. But anyway, sir, children down there in South Carolina, you all go start sitting down there with Dr. Bates and knocking on his door and leaning on his door and getting all the information, glean as much as you can from him. Dr. Bates, I truly appreciate your lifelong work. It's so needed, especially in our community. It's just the value, the long-term value, the generational value that education provides in our community is just so essential. And I just think we've kind of lost that meaning in that point. So I truly value the work that you're doing. And I thank you for making this time to sit down and talk with me today, even though you in South Kakalaki. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time today.
No, thank you for the opportunity to talk today. This is something that is needed and to be heard. And I'm here to support and here to serve.
Awesome. That is all for this week's episode of The Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reid, and I will see everybody next time.